So sometimes people say to me, Tony, how do you come up with what you're going to talk about in the episode? And I say, have you not been paying attention? The entire premise is that we have no choice and it's a hat. But more specifically, um, sometimes just what I open my mouth and what comes out. We literally just discussed what we were going to say here and came up with no answer. So here we are. So here's what I'm going to do instead. I have not been feeling well. And this is a very, here's what I have settled on. I have a very funny story for three people, none of whom are listening to this podcast. So, um, I watched a movie yesterday. I believe it's called Ouija Room. It was Ouija something, and it was a terrible movie by a person and some actors who I'm familiar with, and their movies are terrible, but I enjoy them. Um, this one was a little weird in that it was. I think they were trying harder to make sort of a more serious movie, and they
Mm.
equipped for that. Um, but the protagonist in this movie was a young woman with autism and severe agoraphobia, and according to references throughout the movie, also suffers severely from anxiety and OCD.
That's a lot of stuff.
It really is. And I have not supplicated myself before the therapist goblin, but I'm pretty sure this was not a relatively accurate or considered portrayal. I, in their defense, I do believe they were trying to do it prop. I do not believe they were making fun or intending to be goofy, but this movie is probably first and foremost kind of offensive because of this portrayal. More so, like most of his movies are offensive for other reasons entirely, but this was like, but what's hilarious to me is it was a pitch perfect impression of my Dungeons and Dragons character's fairy familiar named Basil. Like in speech patterns, in attitude, in voice tone,
Hmm.
like it was just dead on this little fairy companion that the GM plays in my game. And so yeah, it was exact. And I was like, this is amazing. Apparently, Basil has autism and agoraphobia. Because it was exactly, and I'm like, that is also a sign that you probably did not do a fair and accurate portrayal
Hmm.
of someone with these conditions. Uh, but I see it's really funny and hilarious if you are in my group. I told it to my wife who's in my group. She thought it was very funny.
Hmm.
I it's like don't you know that classic bit that shows up in things where people do impressions of people that no one knows? Have you never seen this? People
No.
do this all the time. This is like a cliched bit where they're like, okay, I do some impressions. Okay, here's one for you. Okay, like, hey, riding that bike again? That is my neighbor, Mr. Johnson. Like, I don't know if you know him, but that's exactly. If you knew him, you'd be like, that's so him. Like that is that joke. I have seen that joke so many times, and this is like that. This is a super funny story if you know the people involved. I don't recommend Ouija Room, by the way, to anyone for any reason. Um, so don't see it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Magical Talking Cat podcast, the only podcast in the world that is not just a podcast, it's a test. And if you're listening right now, you have passed. And soon we will approach you by cover of night, and our final plans will be enacted. What's fun about this is some people will see, oh, it's a horrible death cult. We've been unknowingly indoctrinated into, but a few people are going to see this as like a Last Starfighter situation. And I'm more. I feel. I hope our listeners are a little more that way.
Yeah,
We're gonna
sure.
come get you, and then the Kodan Armada is fucked. This podcast was testing you. The main weapons of the Kodan Armada are long stories about people you've never heard of. If you can sit through them repeatedly, uh, you can defeat them. I'm Tony.
And I'm William, and this is episode 744.
For those of you just joining us, wow, you're gonna have a hard time up in space. You have not been trained. But anyway, the whole idea is we have a hat. It is magical in that it has its own email address, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. And people write into that email address, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com, with whatever the crap they want, by name, sometimes anonymously, on all sorts of topics, and comments, questions, whatever. The hat magically, all on its own, forwards them to us. We talk about them till we're bored. That's the whole show, except for all the bits that aren't. And we were supposed to get together today to record an episode of Behind the Pancakes, but I have not been feeling well, so we have been unable to do that. So most of the material I had was things to tell William in private, and so now I can't. So now you get to hear about the bad autism character. Sounds like Basil is a fairy. You're welcome.
So, I have some thoughts and feelings about that whole thing because and I felt this way for a long time. This is something you and I have talked about on the podcast many times, and certainly since being trained as a psychotherapist, I've only felt a stronger conviction about this, which is the popular notions of mental illness, as problematic, as they can be. There's some of that's perpetuated a little bit by the profession itself, in my opinion. I don't think the profession has done a very good job of addressing that, and sometimes not just not addressing it, but like feeding
Yeah.
Right? Like,
oh, by the way, yet another portrayal of a bad therapist. This one was supposed to be bad, but still. I do think it improves because, like, in this movie, they actually, like, we got to see them with the therapist, and the therapist, there were ideas put in place and things you can do to improve the situation. A lot of it, spoilers for Ouija room, she ends up getting a Ouija board and summoning the ghosts that live in the house, and they become her friends, which is also bonkers because one of them's a little girl she plays with, and one of them's a punk who convinces her to do bad things, and one of them appears to be a sort of Sinatra era gangster who teaches her how to cook really well.
why
It's
not?
weird,
I don't know.
but like the whole thing is she lives with her brother, and her brother's like trying to, and there's a whole thing of like him trying to support her and dealing with these issues, and they had like, you need to focus, do fitness. It's not an accurate portrayal, I do not believe, but it is an attempt at an accurate portrayal, which in some ways is more dangerous, but is a necessary step. So I appreciate this movie for existing. I don't appreciate it for being dumb as shit. Like, maybe you shouldn't handle these topics when you're a dumb as shit movie company, which they are. I watch a lot of their movies and I enjoy them for reasons other than the fact that they are dumb as shit.
Yes. So the problem that I'm worried about is that I couldn't discount the idea that they had an actual therapist helping them out with it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've just run into this personally and professionally where diagnoses are made that, like, you can take the DS, you can look at it, you can open it up and look at it, go over the criteria, to present them to a person who's been diagnosed with a thing, they'll say, no,
Yeah.
that's never happened. No, that doesn't apply to me. Nope, nope. Completely misdiagnosed. I mean, this is a problem in the profession
But
as far as I can tell.
and I absolutely believe that. To be fair, this may be a problem with having a real ass job and watching movies. Like you and I didn't run into that a lot because there's not a whole bunch of movies that dive into the details of tech support. So there was no like they wouldn't transfer that call that way or anything before. But when you get it, because I hear this all the time with any profession that has any sort of opacity to it. If you're a doctor, if you're to the degree that I know things about professions I've had nothing to do with it, I'm like, that's not how that would work.
Right.
So this may just be your discovery that yeah, movies suck at portraying jobs, and there are plenty of people with those jobs willing to sign off on it if it gets them the money.
But I mean,
But you're right. This is also a very serious one. You're making a lot of reverberations through society by making claims about mental health situations, as opposed to how firefighters chop the door.
right. What? But I
I
mean,
guess.
you for years, you and I have noticed when someone says, "Well, I'm," some diagnosis they have, and even and even as lay people, we were both like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
That
yeah.
seems a little
Well,
fishy.
and to the degree that I'm not even bothered by some anymore. I've talked before. Like my horror movies usually need to be Satan's involved, like supernatural stuff.
Mm.
But if your movie is just about an insane person and you are bad enough at portraying their mental issues, I'm fine. Cause I'm like, they're basically possessed by Satan. Like they're possessed by fake crazy. So it's pretty like to the degree that it's like, yeah, it's its own thing that I'm like, it's basically supernatural. I mean, it has no bearing in reality, so Satan made him nuts.
Okay,
That works.
okay, let me ask you this because I'm curious what you think of this. So, what if, okay, so the story is, what a lot of stories do is like, oh, are they possessed or are they just crazy? Which is it?
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah, yeah.
now, what if the crazy, quote unquote, is just general psychosis, right? Nobody's coming in to say they're schizophrenic or they have
Yeah, yeah,
or,
yeah, yeah.
or they're schizoaffective disorder. They're not, no one's diagnosing them. It's just a general vague psychosis, which people can suffer. And anyone. You don't have to have a diagnosed mental illness to have momentary or temporary whatever. How do you feel about that?
Um, Again, if it's so like vague, like to me, that's just they've got the crazies.
Yeah,
Uh,
they've got the
Frequently they don't
crazies.
even bother. They're like, when this person was younger, some fucked up shit happened, and
Oh,
now they've been locked up for 20 years. And I'm like, so they have the crazies. It's fine.
okay.
It's Satan did it, but Satan is in charge of the crazies.
Okay.
And it's the same thing. I've talked. I hate to go back to this one, but it's the rape scene thing. I am
Mm.
fine with a rape scene in a movie if I'm looking and I'm just like, that's not how you rape. Like, which is a combination of like that person clearly is not unhappy about the situation. That's clearly not how sex happens. Like, there's so many things. But if you show me one that's believable, I'm like, get the fuck out. And it's the same thing. If you show me believable mental health issues
Mm.
and it's like a horror movie, I'm probably out. Um, because I'm like, oh, so this is a thing that maybe could happen, or at worst is trying to tell us that somebody with this condition could do this, which is wildly offensive. Whatever. But
Mm.
if they've just got the crazies, or if my schizophrenia is a great one
Mm.
because schizophrenia is used as the crazies.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you say schizophrenic, they will do anything.
Yeah.
And to the degree of like big budget movies, biopics about people with schizophrenic issues have done things that later were like, that's not how that is works. That's not how you ever see A Beautiful Mind? Most of what was going on to Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind did not happen to the real guy
Mm.
for so many reasons. Not the least of which is they changed that story because what his brain told him was I will say was not as politically acceptable as the way they did it,
Oh,
because it would have made as good a movie. Like that's a whole thing. But like, yeah, he didn't have any visual hallucination. Like also, and so at this point, if they say schizophrenia, I'm like, okay, so Satan. But if you tell me something more specific, like what's going on and OCD, weirdly OCD when it gets center focus seems to be handled pretty well. Not great, but nowadays I feel like there are a few mental health issues that like seldom show up, but when they do, they kind of get the authentic experience a little bit. Agoraphobia is getting there, but it's just such a convenient horror movie thing. Like it's not people like agoraphobia. You can't ever leave your house. Not even close to what it is. But that works real well for a horror movie. So yeah, it's again, if it's doing it realistic, no thank you, because I'm either gonna be squicked out or offended or both.
Mm.
If if you do bad enough, I can't be bothered by it. I can then you then open yourself up to me being bothered by how bad you are in general. And that's a problem. But when I see the point, I'm like, oh, you're too stupid to be saying anything with this. That's fine. You don't have a message here. You just wanted to make a movie. Okay. Then I just sort of roll with it and assume anything controversial, Satan did it.
So,
Or mold.
so for me, like if in the plot there are mental episodes, that doesn't bother me at all because I think humans have mental episodes. I mean, I think that's humanity.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can tell a story, especially a story where fantastical things are happening, if there's not an element of that. That's very different though than saying mental illness. Now you're talking about, you know, something that at least they attempt to scientifically establish, and that is you know, very challenging and difficult for real people in the real world, in ways that maybe portraying them in a fictional manner might, like you said, might be problematic or offensive. But all humans have mental episodes of one kind or another. And I would argue that just about any movie that's interesting, no matter what the genre is, it's some kind of mental distress that's making the proceedings interesting, even though it's not
And
mental illness.
and sometimes you can get into real interesting cultural things where
Mm-hmm.
there is no diagnosis, but like these people tend to handle their mental ill sufferers in this way, and they hold this place in society,
Mm-hmm.
and that can be really interesting. But yeah, it's the point at which you're spouting anything like facts or scientific diagnosis that it's like if this is true of everything, if you give it a name, if you give it something specific, and I know that thing, you are inviting me to see how accurately you do that thing.
Yeah, correct.
And a lot of people may turn down that invitation. I am physiologically incapable of turn. Once you ID'd a thing for me, I am going to see how close you have done with it. I
Yeah.
literally just was watching a clip on YouTube of an improv group pretending to be a D&D group, and I was so mad because clearly none or most of them play D&D, so they were just saying nonsense shit, and I was like getting really mad. Luckily, there must have been one in the group because she sort of turned the story and was like, "It seems like you don't know what you're talking about." And it became this whole thing of the one kid who never DM'd and he could for one day. And so it became about that. But for a little bit, I was getting hot. I was like, do none of you understand Dungeons and Dragons? Because none of this is how that works. So yeah. And that's the thing. If you can keep it vague, it's Doctor Who can do its time travel because of timey-wimey. That one phrase, timey-wimey, they literally use it all the time now. Like, how does that work? Like, it's some timey-wimey bullshit. I'm like, okay, I'm fine with timey-wimey bullshit. If you want to get serious about how your time travel works, I'll get serious. Um, and that's how it is with my mental health too. Like you start naming off conditions that I'm familiar with, I'm like, all right, let's see how well that does. Oh, not at all. You seem like a weird fantasy fairy companion. That's not my understanding of any of those conditions.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh, but I mean, it's building blocks. The fact that we're mentioning these conditions is a step in the right direction. We didn't talk about these. We're normalizing. This is a growing process. We're in the 90s as far as mental health's PR. Like it's about representation. We are less concerned with how accurate that representation is.
We're in the 90s.
The 90s was very open to talking about women and people of color. All we had available were stereotypes, so we just used those. But representationally, we made a lot of great strides in the 90s.
I feel like gay people were represented too.
Also,
Also very
also,
stereotypical. Yeah.
yes, it was like, okay, we need to talk more about them. They are hidden from us. We need to put them out there. This is all we know about them is the ways in which we think they're funny. Let's start there. And everybody was like, isn't this awesome? You never got to see these people in these situations. And it was awesome in a way,
Yeah,
but
in a
it was
way.
also not. And I think that's where we are with mental health. We are finally, because back in the day you just had to list a term. Like, oh, they're depressed.
Hmm.
So they murdered an entire town. And nowadays, we're at least talking about specific things and what they might mean. Now, can we get around to being a little bit better about that? And we are. There are things out there that portray this stuff real well. But yeah, they are in
That
the minority at this point.
that is one big problem right now in terms of, the stigma of mental health is connecting it to violence, connecting it to crime.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
that's a real problem because there's virtually no diagnosis in the DSM-5 that where, except for antisocial behavior, where criminality is any part of the symptomology, or where the people who are diagnosed with this are not disproportionately represented among criminals, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
And even antisocial disorder does not mean a person's going to go committing violent crime. I mean, they
Yeah.
just don't care about other people's rights, and maybe they'll shoplift, maybe it's the category of people who are going to commit violent crimes or predatory crimes is so narrow it almost deserves its own thing, so that all the other diagnoses can be absolved of this idea that, oh, this person has this diagnosis, we have to worry about them and just distance ourselves from them because they might turn violent. Well, that's just not how it works.
If this analogy of history applies here, we'll hit the 2000s era for mental health in which we think we solved it, and we are living in a post mental health era, and then they will show up everywhere, but people will treat them however they want. They'll get a lot more voice, but they'll say a lot of dumb shit at that time, so it'll be a weird time where we're all like, all right, but then eventually somewhere in the 2010s era, and this may not correspond to actual 10 years because this isn't history, this is mental health. People will flip the fuck out that we've been doing such a terrible job with this. And there will be a revolution that will change the representation and divide society between the people who want this more granular and realistic portrayal of mental health and validating these realistic and honest to goodness real life conditions, and people who are like, you can't do anything now because of the mental health folks. Sorry, they'll have some sort of pejorative slur at that point specifically for this, and our nation will be divided by this, and it will be horrifying. But if you hang out with the right people as a mental health sufferer, you will be welcomed and recognized and empowered.
Okay.
I made myself sad by the end of that. The other day, for reasons I don't fully understand, but my wife decided there was an issue that was big enough politically that was happening, and she told me about it. And I don't really know why she did it, and I think a lot of it may have been she just needed to talk to somebody, which I'm like, there are other people, but it's messed me up for days.
Mm.
Just knowing one thing that was happening in the world. Like,
Well, that's sorry about that.
so, got myself. Sorry, people. We don't want to get realistic with this shit. How was your week, mister?
Fine. We watched Sherlock and Daughter. I don't know.
The
if you've
fuck?
heard- Sherlock and Daughter, it's called.
Not a real thing.
It is too.
No.
Let's see. Sorry, Sherlock and Daughter. It's got.
Is it old? Is it new? Where is it from?
No,
What's
it's
happening?
this season. It's this first season is 2025.
Season? Where is this?
David Thewlis plays Sherlock very well.
What?
I think very
Where?
good job.
What service is it? If this is Paramount Plus, I'm gonna come over to your house and punch you in the throat.
And
Where are you watching this?
Doug Ray Scott plays Moriarty really well.
Where are you watching this?
I don't remember. Oh, Max. It's Max.
Okay. Sherlock and Daughter.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of this, and I am so mad about this. I am an enormous David Thewlis fan, and far too often he's in shit I can't watch because he plays freaky bad guys. But this sounds like maybe it wouldn't be that. Tell me more, please.
Well, I think if you like Sherlock Holmes, you'll like this.
I think I do like Sherlock Holmes.
I'm not, but it's not perfect by any means. There's a female lead who I don't think does a very good job, but pretty much everybody else in it does a fantastic job. It's a little low budget. It's made by CW.
By CW, really?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say it looks like a CW show, but
No, yeah.
It's not. You can kind of tell it's not got the budget of a usual streaming service or like Max streaming service show.
Yeah.
But, and I don't know if it was just me with the female lead and it just didn't resonate with me, but everyone else I thought did a fantastic job. I thought the story was compelling and interesting.
Hate women, so I mean,
all right. But I mean, I think if a person likes Sherlock Holmes and Sherlock Holmes stories, and if they like David Thewlis, they'll like it, I think. So,
right.
And I mean, if there's a second season, I'll watch it for sure.
I didn't know this existed. This might have to be my new thing. Sorry, my new show after we finish the one that we're currently in.
Well, if you watch it, I hope you do like it. I hope you're not distracted by production values and things like that.
I hope there's not hidden sex trafficking rings.
No.
Okay. Just checking.
No.
Like there was in Bates Motel.
Oh. Okay, well. No, nothing like that, as far as I can recall. I mean, it's like set. It's a period piece.
Crime solving show, I assume.
Yeah, and it's period. It's not like a lot of Sherlock things are like modern or whatever.
Oh yeah.
This is period, and it's I thought it was good. I'm interested to know if Jazz watches. Jazz is very big on Sherlock Holmes. It did make me stop and think about how I've read very little Sherlock Holmes. I don't think I've even read an entire Sherlock Holmes story, just like a piece of it or a part of it.
Oh.
It seems like I would enjoy it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I haven't read any, but I haven't. So I probably need to rectify that.
I think the expanded canon is a little more interesting. I mean, I enjoy them. I, as a very young age, got a collected Arthur Conan Doyle. At the time, I thought it was all the Sherlock Holmes stories. I have since learned no, it wasn't, but it was like a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I read through them and ate them up. They are great. A lot of the flavor and detail and nuance has been added later, but that is true of Frankenstein as well. And you prefer the pure sort of original there, so maybe this will be the same thing. Speaking of, have we talked about this? How are you feeling about this new Frankenstein that's going to happen? Guillermo del Toro's one, Oscar Isaac's.
Yeah,
I'm really unsure.
Well, so I like Guillermo del Toro in general. So like even if he has something that I watch and I'm not like what was the one he wanted to work something water whatchamajigger. What was it called?
Oh, Shape of Water, the one he
Yeah,
won the Oscar for.
didn't really like that movie, but I watched it and I was fascinated by the Guillermo del Toro-ness of it. I think he's got an interesting vision. He didn't he do the Pinocchio something or other?
He did a recent Pinocchio that apparently was kind of cool, if dark.
Didn't like that either. But I was fascinated by, well, this is Guillermo doing his thing. So there's two things that are going to interest me about this project. One, just him. Just I'm interested in what he's doing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the Frankenstein side of it, that's always going to be interesting to me, even if I don't think it's done very well. So I mean, we'll obviously watch it. For the previews tell me it's going to be the same old,
yeah.
revivifying dead tissue thing.
Oh,
That's a,
absolutely.
but that's okay. That's all right. I can.
There are very few people in the world who even would hold a conversation about how that's not actually how it is in the book. Like,
Well, but see the
that's
good.
I know and understand this, and even I'm like, at this point, I think the book loses. I think at this point the book is wrong because there's such overwhelming. Like the book got it wrong.
Well, and the great thing about this is that any story that's about AI, coming to life and how we're going to deal with that, essentially tells that Mary Shelley
Oh
story
yeah, yeah,
for me. So
yeah, yeah.
I get that itch gets scratched. That's fine. I don't, it doesn't have to be in the context of late 18th century Europe or
William's
whatever.
favorite Frankenstein adaptation is Simone, that movie with Al Pacino.
So
We watched that, and I don't know why we watched that. It was
the
not a great movie.
as I've mentioned on here before, the idea of bringing a corpse to life was actually a woman was responsible for that idea in literature, not Mary Shelley, but a woman who actually wrote a story about a mummy. And she was a contemporary to Mary Shelley. Oh God, I can't remember her name.
This is like the Bram Stoker and then the guy who wrote The Vampire or whatever.
No. It's more like the gal who wrote about the mummy was like critical of Mary Shelley and critical of her parents and critical of
She's
the
like needs more dead bodies.
well, I mean, some people saw. Okay, so Mary Shelley's parents, was an anarchist and a feminist, right? And
Of course, I knew that.
some
Everyone
people
knows
some
that.
people sensed a sort of a radical through line in Frankenstein, and the woman who wrote this mummy story that was set in the future, which and actually was pretty good future writing. The rest of their stuff wasn't that great, but she was a big believer in monarchy and things like that, and so she wanted her story to be a counterpoint to Mary Shelley's story, and
Oh.
in her story, a mummy is revivified using electricity. That she came up with that, and as far as I know, she is the origin of that idea in literature and in art. And I wish I can't remember her name, Jane. Well, anyways,
Anne Heche.
but she was a contemporary of Mary Shelley's and was trying to tell a story that kind of to push back against it a little bit. It was set in the future. It's very long and there's lots of parts of it that aren't interesting, but there are other parts that are super interesting. Some of her speculative fiction, science fiction aspects are pretty interesting. And that was her deal. The mummy in her story was brought back to life through being, electricity or whatever.
This
So
could be our solution here. When you talk about dry, boring shit nobody cares, I will be roughly snuggling cats on the screen at the same time. So people can choose which they're interested in.
So yeah, but I don't. I'm interested in the film. I'm interested because it's Del Toro. I'm interested because I'm interested in anything that's Frankenstein. It doesn't have to, meet my standards of what a Frankenstein story is. And but I feel like it's going to be like some of his other efforts that I'm interested to see, and I have good things to say about it, but I generally don't like it. I have a feeling it's going to be like that.
Yeah, based on what I've seen, I'd say 70% chance I think it's a good movie, 30% chance I think it's a decent Frankenstein. And my bar for that is much lower than yours. as evidenced by all that shit you just said that I don't know any of that.
Well, one thing I notice in the previews is that he's going to be really strong and all this other stuff, which makes sense in Mary Shelley's telling, because essentially he creates a whole other being that's bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, morally better, even in a lot of ways, than human beings,
Like that Daft Punk song.
which again fits artificial intelligence stories, right? If you make a robot that's artificially intelligent, it's smarter than us, it's stronger than us, that's what Mary Shelley, that's the story Mary Shelley was telling. When in newer stories where it's a dead body brought back to life, what explanation is there for why it's stronger and faster and better than it? It's some supernatural reason, obviously, right? I mean, that's the only explanation.
I don't know.
But
I mean, zombies have been fucking with that for a while.
yeah, I suppose so. But
Zombies should not work in the same principle.
in Mary Shelley's version, there's a reason he's stronger and faster and can jump great distances and is smarter and better. It's for the artificial intelligence reason. In the revivifying dead tissue, there's no real rationale for the creature being super strong or having any other kind of preternatural abilities, except I suppose magic or supernatural or whatever. Coming back from the dead, I don't know.
You heard it here, William, with the hot take that Guillermo's unreleased Frankenstein film will have bad science in
it. Well, supernatural stuff.
History will be the judge.
I mean, is that how you read it when a resurrected corpse has supernatural powers? It's because they were dead. They're bringing some of that supernatural power with them back from the dead.
And this is the thing, because more and more zombie movies aren't supernatural in their origins. It was a radiation leak, it was a whatever, and then it's like, okay, how are the impulses going? The dead tissue should be degrading. How are they fucking jumping? And especially when it's like fast zombies. Some of them deal with it where it's like they can barely move because they're dead bodies. but some of them are like, no, they can just do it. I'm like, well, are they dead then or not? Which is and then the entire zombie genre. The difference is nobody else considers Frankenstein a genre like you do. You're running into the same issue as everybody else is with genres, but you're very Franken focused.
Title of the episode right there. Come on.
I mean, wasn't my plan. I will set them up when that was in the moment, but yeah, I think we're there. I think
that's a good one. Love it.
Now, is it Franken focused, all one word, or is it Frank N focused?
No. Well, you have to understand.
Go for hot dogs and a good place to study. Come to Franken focused.
You have to understand. I mean, if I was teaching a class on human nature, or the foundations of human behavior and human natures as a way, like almost a 101 on human behavioral science, to get people started and sort of launch them into the study of human behavioral science, I'd probably have them read Mary Shelley or parts of it, because of how she describes, here's a new creature being created, and this is how they learn about the world. This is what that experience is like. This is how they learn language. I mean, she's got amazing insights into how humans work. And you just don't get that in any of the stories where, we dig up a dead body and shock it to life. I mean, that just doesn't, you don't get all that
all
cool
of
stuff.
That makes sense, except if you were teaching a course on microwave cookery, I'm pretty sure you'd make them read Shelley. This is what I'm saying. I'm not saying you're wrong in any way. I'm saying you care about this more than literally any person on the planet.
Well, and that was my point. I don't think
Mary Shelley cared as much about her work as you do. For all that they keep making movies about it. Apparently, the universe is just trying to please you. They're like, William, we made another Frankenstein. Does this work? And you look and you're like, no, try again. And nobody knows this is what's happening.
Well, but that was the point I was making. This is how big a deal her original work is to me. But as I keep saying, anything that tells a story about artificial intelligence these days pretty much scratches that itch, and I'm totally satisfied with that. It doesn't.
I don't know what's happening, but stop fighting. Sorry, they were angry cats.
I'm not mad about it. what they're doing. You know, it's
Well,
just this.
we'll see. I'm at the point now. I'm hang out with you too much. I've never read it, so you could be making up all of these things. But I'll watch now. Like I get the themes. I get what sort of the point was when it was made, and every time I see these, I'm like, doesn't seem like you get the point.
Well, no, I don't think
And
I don't.
and that's the thing. And I saw this trailer. I'm like, it looks like a Van Helsing. Hopefully, it'll be better than that. But it looks like a action movie that's gonna be wearing a Frankenstein suit. Like,
Yeah, I don't. I mean, that the only the only thing that really kind of bothers me about these things is that there's a lot of stuff that I think Mary Shelley's trying to say or talk about that just gets completely lost. And you know, when people talk about Frankenstein stories, they talk about scientific hubris. I think, yeah, I think that was part of what Mary Shelley was doing for sure. You've nailed it. But when they're talking about like issues of life and death and you know what it's like to be resurrected from the dead and stuff, she wasn't really
no, no,
that
no.
wasn't really what she
It's
was
way
talking
more the
about.
AI line. It's the what does it mean to be a sentient being?
Yes, and what does it mean for humans to make a sentient being? You
Yeah,
know,
Mary
that's a
Shelley was the original Gene Roddenberry. Like
and I'm not the only
that's
one that
her
says that,
whole
by the
deal.
way.
No,
Lots
no.
of people
Well,
say that. I'm
and
not the only
again,
one.
having not read it, it's also patently obvious. I know the basics of the story. The story lends itself to the you made a being
Mhm.
that just came out made. What is it? It's as you say, it's the AI thing. It's
Mhm.
like, is it sentient? How does it feel having done a fucking hello world? It wasn't born and raised and shit. It just happened. Like
Mhm.
all of that is what is interesting.
Mhm.
Not
To me,
about,
yeah.
oh, what if we could bring dead people back? Except especially because like even in the modern cliched versions, it's like yeah, from 12 different people. It's like a modern steak at the grocery store. That's not from one cow.
Well,
We meat
and
glued that shit.
yeah, and a
And
lot of these.
that's not interesting unless it becomes a thing. I love the whole like I got a killer's hand put on me and now the hand. I love that story. That's fun. If you do that Frankenstein, I'm there. But otherwise I'm like, what's it like to be a resurrected member of parliament funkadelic? I mean, there's so many people, there's so many different corpses. You're not resurrecting anything really. Like,
Well,
yeah, I don't
and a lot of these
yeah,
stories, they like remember their previous life. I mean, that's not in this original story at all. He didn't
yeah.
have a previous life. He was.
Well, because in the cliche version, getting the right brain has
Yeah.
become a thing. I
Yes.
don't really know how, but getting the perfect brain is the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, no, 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 no. But
It
again,
does lend
that's
itself to comedy. Getting the wrong brain lends itself to some interesting comedy.
that'd be
But
normal.
yeah.
But I don't mind it. It's like, and I like the original films. I like Young Frankenstein that I was just quoting. I mean, I don't have a problem with any of that stuff. I just I do feel like I do feel like Mary Shelley's story doesn't only gets told by artificial intelligence narratives, but that's fine. It is getting told in those places. I don't people sometimes don't really give her credit for originating that whole thing,
Mhm.
but I mean, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, no, I think that's uh did I tell you about when I haven't seen Young Frankenstein
Oh.
and I was recently thinking we should see it and I said it to Trish and she's like, I don't know. Which
Oh.
is weird because like she and I both run hot and cold on Mel Brooks in general.
Oh yeah, I
Like
mean.
some films of his I love, some I don't. And I will admit they're all sort of unique, but also thereafter I've seen them and she hasn't seen and I'm like, what? She's like, I don't know with Mel Brooks. And finally she says, well, I don't think it'll be as good as Blazing Saddles. And I was like, no, probably not. Blazing Saddles is awesome. I was not suggesting this should be the new only Mel Brooks movie we see. What? And finally she just sighed. We were driving to work and she sighed. She's like, all right, I'll watch it with you, but we'll probably have to watch Blazing Saddles after. And I'm like, Okay. Like, I don't understand how we're on opposite sides here. These are unrelated things. Blazing Saddles is awesome. I will watch Blazing Saddles with you. We're not having to choose. I'm just saying maybe we should watch Young Frankenstein. So we may watch Young Frankenstein in the near future, but we'll probably also watch Blazing Saddles, which kicks ass.
What, as a palate cleanser? Is that what that is? In case
I don't know because I've never seen Young Frankenstein. I don't know. I don't know how she knows. I mean, to say it's probably not going to be as good as Blazing Saddles makes sense because I've seen a lot of Mel Brooks movies and none of them are as good as Blazing Saddles.
Oh.
I have a soft spot for Men in Tights. I don't know that it is great. I just know I went and I saw Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves in the theater and it sucked. And shortly after, I saw Men in Tights in the theater, and that is 80% just a movie making fun of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. And so it was here for me, and I was here for it, and I love it. Also, I love seeing Cary Elwes in things that aren't Princess Bride or Saw. So that's also fun. So I love Men in Tights, but I understand that may be a very heavily biased love. I don't give a shit about Spaceballs, which makes people very unhappy. I have very conflicted feelings about History of the World. I used to love it. Now I feel very weird about it. Yeah. Anyway, what were we talking about?
I don't know.
Frankenstein.
Yeah, I'm talking about Frankenstein.
Yeah, Young Frankenstein and Blazing Saddles. Oh my god. All right. So how was my week?
Yeah, how was your week? You asked about Guillermo del Toro's new Frankenstein movie. That's how we got on this.
I did. I baited you without a doubt. I definitely. All right. I watched 3 movies.
Oh,
so
okay,
I'll talk about them.
Here we go. Yeah. Let's talk
All
about
right. I don't think we're getting 2 emails.
Oh no.
3 movies. TV wise, we have started. What's the new show we're watching? We just started something because we finished Somebody Somewhere, and so I don't remember what we're watching. We're definitely watching something. We're still doing Interior Chinatown, which has gotten weird. I didn't realize Trish is on the verge of quitting it. We're about halfway through the season, and she's like, "I'm going to give it one more episode." So I might be watching that one on my own, which is why I'm excited about this Sherlock thing. I might pick a new show. But this is annoying not to remember what the other TV show we're watching is. This is bad. I gotta look real quick. Sorry, everybody.
No, that's okay.
Talk amongst yourselves.
You're supposed to give us a topic.
Oh shoot. The Full Monty was neither full nor Monty.
That's a good one. Not bad.
It is not on here. I don't know. All right. All right. Let's talk about these movies then. I am still playing Expedition 33, but I am at a point that I'm pretty sure is going to switch into Act 3, which means it's probably going to do something really sad in between Act 2 and Act 3. So I've been hesitant to play right now, but I still love that game. I've been entertaining myself with an old 360 game called Sunset Overdrive, which is sort of a punk actioner thing where you just are fighting mutants that have turned into mutants because of energy drinks. It's a very goofy, silly game, but I found that it kind of kills time and it's fun. And Mario Golf I've been playing. Oh my god, I need to get out of the house more. I am projecting a lot onto Mario Golf.
What do you mean?
So I play Mario Golf, and here's what I do. I have characters that I like playing, and you want to keep playing them because they earn points and they get better clubs. But there's like a bunch of Mario characters. And so I played one for a while, and then I played another. I'm trying different ones out. And I always play with a CPU partner. One. So like we're playing golf together. So it's me and some CPU one, and we sort of play together, and it's fine. And then it's just 18 hole courses, and if I gotta do something, I pause it because the Switch it'll just live on there right in the middle of the game. That's fine with it. So recently I've been doing interesting pairings, and I decided I was gonna play Pauline. Pauline is Mario's ex-girlfriend. Specifically, Pauline is the woman you're rescuing in the original Donkey Kong.
Correct. That is
Yes.
Pauline. Yeah.
Jumpman is rescuing. She has become a character in her own right, and in, I think, Mario Odyssey, you got to a city called New Donk City, which is just a New York ripoff, and she's the mayor, and she sings now. It's a whole thing. Whatever. I decided I was going to play her, and I thought this will be funny. Her partner will be Donkey Kong. They can like hash out old issue, whatever. I got so mad at that ape. Every time he used a special shot that messed me up or got like better on a hole, I got so mad. I wanted him to fail. And I'm not normally like that when I play this game with, fictional characters, but I was like, screw that guy. And it really got me agitated the whole game. I did beat him, fortunately. And then the next one I did, I was like, I want to play Bowser. I haven't played actual Bowser, the big lizard turtle king monster guy at golf. And you know who is also in this game that could be my partner? Bowser Jr. And it's just like he was a bad guy in a different one. It's little Bowser Jr. So we play, and it's Mario Golf, so they're all kitted out in like golf stuff, and he's like a little version of me, and I'm so pleased for him. Every time he does well, I'm like, that's it, son. And if he beats me at a level, I'm like, oh, you're getting better than the old man. Oh, give us a high five. Yeah, when we get the same score, I really like my life, man. It's Mario Golf at this point. I need to get out more. It's sad. But
You do need to get
yeah,
out more.
I do.
I affirm
I have
that.
realized this on a few games, video games. I think some video games I like the stories better than other people because I put a lot of shit onto the story that they didn't necessarily have. I've
Mm.
thought about this recently because everybody hated the ending of Mass Effect 3. And they were like, you made all these choices and it came down to just one of two or possibly three things, depending on how you played, and then that was it. And they were so mad, and I was like, that worked for me. I imagined what it would go like. I think I just imagined a lot more in it because I was one of the few people who was like, I thought the original ending was fine. So I'm starting to think I may project a lot more narrative into these things than what exists.
Mm.
Anyway, movies. Stop asking me how my week was so I can tell you how my week was.
Okay.
We watched Drive Angry. Sorry, Drive Angry 3D.
3D. Wow.
We didn't watch it in 3D, but it was
Wow.
originally called that. It was a natively 3D movie. It's a Nick Cage movie. I sometimes mix it up with Mandy, which I also haven't seen, and my wife doesn't want to see, so I'm going to watch that on my own. But then I remembered Drive Angry. Um, Drive Angry is a movie in which Nick Cage breaks out of hell to chase down some cultists who are going to sacrifice his granddaughter to Satan. And William Fichtner is a demon from hell sent to catch him and bring him back. And Amber Heard gets involved, and then it just is. It's a movie called Drive Angry, starring Nick Cage. You can put the rest of this together. It does have some funny bits because, like, one of the things they're satanic cult, and one of the things that happens is apparently Satan is real, hell is real. Satan doesn't give a shit about like pacts and deals. He just runs the jail that is hell. So every single like Satanist who thinks they're like doing these rituals, it's all in their heads. And so that's a whole thing is like they're gonna sacrifice his baby. Nothing is going to happen. Even the demon is like, yeah, this is not. Satan doesn't care. So I do think that's a fun sort of twist to the whole thing. It's like, yeah, we have Satanists. We literally know it's all made up because we have Satan, and he's like, I do not know this man. So I thought that was fun, but I don't know, it was missing something. It's exactly what it sounds like, which is exactly what I wanted. It's good. It's fine. I don't know. It just didn't hit. It's okay. If you want your Nick Cage fix, it's probably better than a lot of them. But yeah, so that was that. Then we watched a New Zealand horror comedy called Housebound. And it's about a young woman who gets in trouble and so she is under house arrest in her parents' house, and it's like awkward family comedy, but then also evil things happen.
Does New Zealand make any horror that isn't a comedy?
I don't think so. They also tend not to make any horror that isn't really gross.
No.
They really like their sort of splatter comedies. I mean, Peter Jackson started in horror in New Zealand, and yeah, that's their thing. Yeah, I don't know, which is why often I'm not a big New Zealand horror guy. New Zealand horror, J horror, actually. I love a lot of Japanese stuff. J horror, often not my thing either, just because they tend to have themes and ideas that I don't give a shit about. And horror comedy is tricky, in my opinion. Horror comedy is an advanced level skill, and everybody treats it like it's the easy version of horror because you don't have to be serious. It is the hard version because you have to not be stupid. Housebound is very good. They nailed the tone. It is literally 45 minutes longer than it needs to be. You could just chunk 45 minutes out of the middle somewhere and it'd be fine. Is really good. And then eventually we're like, how is this movie still going? And we looked and it's like 2 hours and something. We're like, why? Why is it this long? And it didn't need to be that long. So if you got nothing to do for a while, it's a fun movie, but whatever. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's talk about the third movie, which is the important movie. We saw Sinners.
Yeah, we hope to see that. So you rented it then?
We did. Yeah. We spent $20 to rent it on Apple TV Plus. Because the internet has decided we've all seen it now. The Honest trailer dropped. I'm seeing list videos talking about, endings you didn't like, and I see a picture of him, and I'm like, okay, the internet's done waiting for us to see it.
Yeah,
$20 is still less than it would go to a theater.
Yeah,
and we don't want to go to a theater, so we just did it. It's available on Prime, on Apple TV Plus, all of those. At the moment, we feel more comfortable giving money to Apple than we do to Amazon, even though they're both global evil conglomerates, but that's where we are. So yeah, so we saw it. It's real good. I enjoyed it greatly. It was entertaining in and of itself. It was poignant. It was scary in places. It was intelligent. I am confident it was exactly the movie Ryan Coogler wanted to make, and it prompted interesting conversations between my wife and I afterward. That is my full rational review. It is not the movie some people think it is. It is a horror movie. Easily the first 50 to 60% is just a Jim Crow era period piece of black people in the South basically trying to open up a new club for them. And Michael B. Jordan plays two twins who have come back into town to do this. They're like famous gangster twins who went off to Chicago, and they're coming back to open up just a place, a social gathering locale for the locals, and then horror things happen. It's also a musical, sort of. It's a diegetic musical. There are a lot of songs that happen and singing and choreographed dance numbers, but they are all meant to really be happening within the real world. So it's not a musical, but there's a lot of musical numbers in it. Okay. They're good ones. You like old blues, you like old Irish folk music. Trish wants the soundtrack. It kicks ass. Also, Haley Steinfeld is in it.
I recently learned that.
I like her, but I haven't yet figured out what her deal is. She just shows up and shit, and she always does well, but like there's no pattern to the stuff she shows up in.
There really isn't. No.
I really like her. I've not seen her do a bad job.
Yeah, I love her.
But yeah, they're just like throwing her wherever, and she does good in this. A lot of people. Delroy Lindo is a major character in this. And I love him. I'm very sad because, as I've said before, we've lost a lot of older black actors recently, and he's in his 70s, and I feel like I just kind of discovered him. Like, he's one of those faces in the background forever that I've known, but now I like really. Glenn Turman, similar thing. I'm a huge Glenn Turman fan, and I didn't discover him till very late in his career. So it made me a little sad. I'm like, oh, how many more movies is he gonna be in? But he did real good in this. Everybody did real good in this. People I didn't know are in this, and they did real good. It's not. Here's what I will say. It is not a life-changing movie for me. It did not change my perspective on things. It says a lot of important things that I think are very important to a lot of people. Nothing new for me. I was talking to Trish about this. I hate to say this because it sounds so glib and it sounds so self-satisfying, but Trish and I are woke enough that we did not learn any lessons from this movie. I definitely think a lot of people could learn. Like, if you haven't seen a lot about Jim Crow era South or know a lot of that history, this could be really fascinating. And it was great to watch for me, but it wasn't new. It was all telling harsh truths that I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of aware of that. But I think for some people it could be. And like I said, it spawned a lot of conversation with us. If you watched Lovecraft Country, and if you haven't, go watch that, and you liked it, this is very much in that wheelhouse. Little less supernatural, but still some. I think it's pretty much supposed to, it's a vampire movie. It ends up being about vampires. But again, only in like the third act. But it's really good. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it's not one of those that I was like, oh my God, I'm looking at everything different. I'm not, but it's a solid movie. And I enjoyed it and would watch it again.
We'll see it probably. Don't know when. We did see. I just want to mention we did see the Last of Us season 2. We did see that.
Oh yeah. I see. This is another behind the pancakes thing. I know the story of the video games, and I know certain things that are very different in the TV show. But I only know some of them. I don't know others of them. So I'm really curious to sit down with somebody who doesn't care about spoilers and discuss this. Because I will not watch the show in the same way that I will not play the video game. But I still think the story is interesting. I just cannot cope with it.
I'll just say this about it. We thought the season was fine, and I have found most of the criticisms about it to not be about the season on its merits. It's all about, oh, we don't like, this comparison to the video game. We don't like this thing that happened in the video game or in this. It doesn't seem to be about the merits of the show as it was made, which that's a pet peeve of mine when people do that. When they can't separate their expectations or their comparison to source material, whether it's a book or anything else, from that. Well, treat this as its own thing. What do you think of it just as it's on its own merits?
This thing is bad because I wanted it to be X and it's not X, so it's bad.
Yeah.
No, that's one of the most common screens. And you and I talk for way too long to distinguish that in ourselves. We'll say, like, this was really good. I didn't like it.
Yeah, you're right.
And we will again spend an hour or more making it clear.
Just for the record, Abby and I thought the season was fine. But a lot of other people hated it. I know why, and some of it I even agree with the criticisms, but it's like, nope, this seemed like a pretty good season to us.
And if anybody everybody loves this show or whatever, but even Trish couldn't. If you're not familiar, I'll just say this. The Last of Us, full stop, video games, TV show, everything, is one of the most bummery stories ever. It's not like, which is not to say it's not an amazing story, dealing with some really serious themes in some really fascinating ways, and asking a lot of fascinating questions, and I'm sure probably sparked a lot of conversation after you finished watching it, of all the implications or whatever. But it is a bummer of a story. So if you, like me, are very sensitive to that stuff, there is no happy. Like, there are moments. It's not a positive. Like, I talked about Somebody Somewhere and how I loved it, and like it has parts that are rough to deal with or whatever. It is on a trajectory going up. People figuring out their shit, dealing with their problems, and improving their lives. This is the story of the last vestiges of humanity's descent into pretty much dead. It's a standard post-apocalyptic. Everything sucks, and it's never gonna stop sucking.
Mm.
So people should be prepared for that. I don't want you to walk into. If I walked into The Last of Us not knowing, I would break something. Something inside me would snap, and I would be that much more dead inside. But a lot more grizzly, handsome Pedro Pascal. So, and apparently a really good Nick Offerman episode in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's time for a quest.
Side quest, yeah.
What is your quest?
Seeking the Holy Grail.
Is that a European or African Holy Grail?
I don't know that.
All right. In your mind, see a room. The room is made of crystal, its many facets blinking light on you from no visible source. There, in the midst, you must sit in the lotus position, close your eyes, and envision a space within a space, a liminal place outside of time, and there you see a Phoenician number. What number is it?
7.
I knew you were going to say that.
I knew you knew I was going to say that.
I knew you knew I knew. Shit. All right. Oh, now this is a quest. We definitely haven't had this one.
Okay.
Always carry a towel.
But
Do you know what that's from?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes. The actual quest is wash all the towels in your home. Even the clean ones. Do it right now.
Even the clean.
It doesn't say that, but I feel like it's implied. Because otherwise, this side quest is just do laundry. Which I'll admit is a necessary side quest. I don't know if it requires its own card.
No, I mean, I am doing laundry today. It will include probably 2 towels.
All the towels in your house.
Not going to do it. There's plenty of towels in this house. I'm not going to wash all the towels.
You got beach towels you take to.
I mean,
all of them.
I trust that the towels that are folded up and put away are clean. So
paper towels, all of them. Wash them. I got 6 rolls in the pantry. Washing all of them. Otherwise, it makes no sense as a quest. If it's just doing laundry, it's not. No, all your towels. All right, should we hear the quote? This is from a Douglas Adams. I think he was a Nickelodeon character. I may not have gone where I intended to go, but I think I ended up where I needed to be. Again, I love you, Douglas Adams, but that is the most generic life coaching bullshit. What? You can't always get. Yeah, the Stones did it. It's done. Nobody needs to reiterate that lesson. Can't always get what you want, but sometimes you might find you get what you need. All your towels in your house. There are towels in your house.
You pretty much, by definition, always get what you need, because if you failed to get what you truly need, you would die. So as long as you're not dead.
I
You
don't know
must
how
be
to
getting
break the
what you
sea
need.
woes, but sometimes people die.
Yeah, right. So if you're
Everyone
alive,
get what they need.
you've probably up until this point, or if you're alive and not currently in the process of dying, you've probably up to this point always gotten what you needed.
They change that, but you might find sometimes if you survive, you'll get what you need. That's what we say instead of you might find. But sometimes if you survive, you get what you need by definition.
Like, because if you don't get it and you survive, you obviously didn't need it.
This is the kind of specificity of lyric that you can expect from Pilot House Band on YouTube now. Go check it out. It's this but a Casio keyboard demo background. It's just William talking about
We did have a Casio keyboard one in our band.
this is my shocked face.
Yeah. I had a
All right.
Casio keyboard when I
So,
was in high school.
oh, I had bunches of them. I
I
thought
guess
the
he did
demo
too.
button was the best button in the world. But of course, all of mine were the ones that had like an octave and a half of keys. So I'm like, I can play a couple things, but that's it. I got real into that keyboard for a while. All right, that's gonna be it for us. Sorry we didn't get to no emails today, but we had to discuss Frankenstein's mental health. Please write in though, because we always need more emails. TheMagicalTalkingHat@gmail.com. And go to the blog, TheMagicalTalkingHat.com, and tell us your thoughts on all of this nonsense. And I hope you have a good week. And you probably shouldn't be Franken focused, but be focused on whatever focuses you, Frank.